Hello everyone, I'm Zach Katan. This is my brother Umar Katan, and we're you Katan. Brothers sounds like a better word than co-founders. And we're here to present three things. The first is a novel method of user input. Second is a method of gait analysis, real-time gait analysis. And third is a passive and continuous method of weight measurement. And it's three things: input, gait, and weight. And here it is, a working prototype. It works, but it doesn't work in the sense that you can put in your shoes and we can sell them at Target for a low price. And what do we call it? More about that later. But first, these three things: input, gait, and weight. And what's the point? I mean, it's cool, and obviously everyone wants one, but there's already a million wearables out there, and we're already procrastinating on getting a Fitbit, so why with this new product? Well, with input, is a great new method for working with the VR and AR space, as well as great for a new type of user experience, especially as we have headphones like AirPods. We're moving away from touch-based user interfaces, playing with your iPhone, and moving more towards a voice-based user interface like Alexa and Siri, and using your sands to possibly navigate, say, using foot as a gas pedal to scroll up and down and whatnot. And it can be also great for accessibility, where it may be the only method of user input. As well as I said before, VR and AR, especially as we move into, Bose has their own AR products, and Oculus Go. Second is gait. It's great for stance. It's great for knowing your stance and cadence. And this can be great for athletes wanting to maximize performance. And this can be very useful, especially in workouts where the real problem is the quality of a workout as opposed to quantity, where, whether you're doing squats or whatever type of workout, if you do it improperly, it's very hard to see the results until decades later, where you go to the doctor and you find out you need to perform surgery on your spine because you've been doing everything wrong. And it can also be useful for, especially the elderly, because especially with fall detection or correcting your posture in real time, you want to be able to correct everything immediately, as opposed to worrying about surgeries or therapies for everyone who have been doing everything wrong, when it's too late. And third is passive and continuous weight measurement, because whenever you weigh yourself once a day in the morning, it's a very poor method of analyzing your body composition, because if you gain a pound over 24 hours, what does that mean? Water, food, what? People misinterpret it, and they react negatively, and you get this negative feedback loop. As an experiment, we took a regular scale, measure ourselves multiple times throughout the day over 24 hours. This is our weight, ranging from 170 to 176. And we noticed that there's a lot more to your weight over the course of a day. You can see it spikes up and down as you eat and go to the bathroom. But we also noticed this, a red line decreasing over the course of a day, and that's actually you losing weight by exhaling, converting fat into carbon dioxide in water. And now the goal is transform from maximizing weight loss to maximizing and sustaining a maximal downward slope. And by taking information such as what you eat, when you eat, and also what you eat in what order, and whatever activities you perform and hydration, you can actually figure out what you need to do to maximize your metabolism for your body, as opposed to seeing an article that says everyone should eat this particular food because everyone's the same, and everyone also uses 23andMe and everyone's different. And knowing hydration can be great to know if you're hydrated, dehydrated, or bloated. Maybe you're retaining water. A lot of rich information that can be figured out. And how did we get here? Because it's important not just the hardware, but also the partnerships, because we don't want to just take your money, pay one company once, and then say goodbye forever, because that's not scalable to just pay people once. Well, for the sensors, we just use basic FSRs. We work with Stephen Label. They make pressure sensors and flexible PCBs over near Santa Fe Springs. It would be really cool to work locally with Interlink Electronics, because they make the same kind of stuff. And we actually talked personally with them. And they were so supportive, and we built a great relationship, sending emails back and forth, that we got a really great low price, so which is great for scale, that they were even willing to share our demo that we showed them on their LinkedIn. So they're really nice and willing to promote us. And next we added a microcontroller. It's a basic ESP32 chip that can send the sensor data through web Bluetooth. Later on, we plan to add accelerometer and gyroscope to know the foot orientation as well, maybe even haptics, who knows. And for the development environment, just web development through JavaScript, because almost everyone is a web developer. It's very easy to find them. And building a developer relationship is also very important. My experience is I built a web SDK for the Bose AR development environment, where this is one guy, Fabian. He's a tech speaker from Mozilla, and he talked about how I was able to help him out in connecting to the Bose hardware for AR development. And even he says it's very easy, just connect and it works. And that's my GitHub repository. You can tell because we matched the color scheme. And we live in SF, and I would go around looking for potential developers. This is one of our this is one meetup. This is a meetup at Stanford Karma. My brother's over here. That's Go Wang. That's his book Artful Design. This is our product over here. And over on the very left, we met someone who was looking for a job. He does web development and data visualization. We worked with him, and we helped him out with the SDK, and he was able to make a demo that actually connects to the shoe soles, and even made a little video demo for us. I wonder if I can play this. No, it doesn't work. But we were able to help him out, and now he got it, and he posted it online, and now he has a job at Fitbit, so that worked out well for him. Next, we got a PCB to miniaturize all the wires, and I forgot to mention too that if you want, you can pass down any of the single flexible PCB, and you can just pass that down. They can just play around with it. And we soldered everything down here, but of course we can miniaturize it even further. Right now it's the size of a business card. We can get even further with the right funding. And then we got some friends. This is a guy who works at Nike. He liked their project so much that he moonlighted to help model a basic enclosure for us. And that worked out well. You can see it on the right. But then we wanted to get it even better. We wanted to have an enclosure that focuses all the sensors, that focuses the pressure on the sensors. So we work with someone else. He's Dan. He's CEO of Studio 20. He helped us, make some sketch for a better enclosure. And we worked with some people working on a VR headset, and they helped us model and print the enclosure. And they printed it out for us. And all we had to do in return was buy a 3D printer and lend it to them. And so they printed out the enclosure, which you can pass down. I'm sure you guys have felt. And they were able to use that same printer to print out their headsets. So everyone wins. And by building these partnerships, we didn't really spend that much money, and the only money we spent was on capital that we get to keep. So we had to be very strategic because we're only two guys and we're paying out of pocket. We then plan to use TensorFlow to take all the data to generate machine learning models to know gate, weight, all that stuff. Using Amazon Web Services to store all the data, and partnering with a company, a startup called Relay. Here's them pitching at TechCrunch Disrupt, and they use blockchain for crowdsourcing data where people can generate data, choose to share it, and get reciprocated in a token, and by creating a smart contract where as people use their data to create machine learning models and APIs and apps, as people pay to use the apps, akin to paying, say, $10 a month like Netflix, their $10 gets distributed to the app developers, API developers, and data contributors, where everyone gets paid for their data and everything made with the data. After I saw their pitch, I immediately contacted them, told them what we're doing, and they were so excited about the project because this product is an IoT device that generates data and a novel type of data that they're willing to work with us for free just so they can beat their competition because everyone else is doing wrist devices. This is foot input, so it's a gold mine of data. It's very new. And we're also going to plan to work with a machine shop. This is a machine shop called Dahlia Prototypes based in San Jose. They just opened, and they need some clients that need to help work on some prototypes. And it's run by a guy who quit his job at a machine shop that used to make parts for the booster rockets at SpaceX because they were making hundreds of thousands of dollars per part. But his employer was making 90% of the profit. So he thought, I can just open up my own machine shop and get 100% of the profit. And they're willing to work with us to take what we have here and miniaturize it even further. And because they're new, they're willing to buy whatever materials they need. And they're willing to work with silicon, the same material they use, say, for the Adidas Carbon. They're willing to do whatever it takes because they don't really have many machine parts, and they're willing to rent whatever, work with glass or rubber or whatever. And all they want in return is that they want to license one aspect of our shoe soles That way, when we move into mass manufacturing, they will then have to license that one component. So that's how they plan to make their money. So we don't have to worry about paying people until at the end where we'll actually make money, which makes sense because we don't want to take out a huge loan because that scares us. We're already worrying about student debt. You know, he's in debt a little bit at UCLA because he graduated in electrical engineering, computer science. It's paid off so well. I mean, we got this far. He made a lot of this stuff. It's pretty awesome. He's pretty cool. He's a pretty cool brother. And here's some of their parts. They only got that countertop because it said West Germany on it, but don't worry, they know what they're doing. And all these people along the way have helped us. You know, and it's amazing, these partnerships, by taking the effort and building a great relationship, we've saved so much money. I mean, honestly, this is like an internal, social network if you think about it. All these people moonlighting and not telling their employers. Jeremy here, who works at Nike over in Portland, he was willing to, he told us, like, we have these amazing 3D printers, but they lock them up after work so I can't use them, but I really want to help out you guys, because he's also an Ethereum developer, and he also likes the idea of using blockchain and stuff. And the reason is because they just see the product in their own way. They see it, as a great VR and AR accessory for health, for, the elderly, to help take care of them in case they've fallen, or help them because spine and posture is a big issue. Everyone sees what they want to see. And even when we post this online on LinkedIn saying, what ideas do you guys have for it? Everyone posts their own ideas. They say, you can do this, you can do that. Even they're here, the CEO, co-founder of Endel. They do audio soundscapes for relaxation. Even he posts, oh, you can use this. A lot of people like it. It's a great way to come up with ideas, and by releasing it as a platform, can't wait to see what they make. And especially this guy down here, he referenced his friend Sargis and say, this looks good. And we looked him up. Who is this guy? He's actually the CEO of Endel. He's a competitor. We didn't even know that. They say they make shoe soles that track your weight, but they don't actually have a product. I keep telling them, hey guys, let's meet up. I want to work with you guys. We're willing to drop everything we have if you have a product. They don't respond. Yet when we look at our analytics, a bunch of people from Embry Tech are looking at our posts, so they're scared. It's awesome. And when we think about the name, this is me here last year, and I went up. I look like I'm wearing the same stuff. I got a hat now, so I'm a whole new person. We were so busy we forgot to change. And my brother and I, we grew up here in Camarillo. We live in SF now, but hopefully with funding we can stay here and work and maybe rent one of those buildings. And we've seen this place evolve, and we want to evolve with it. I mean, you guys have built a school, Sprouts, Toppers moved across the street. It's a whole new city now. And we want to evolve with it. In fact, when we made our first prototype, we used FSRs, and we got it from a company called Interlink Electronics. We didn't even know that the place was down the street, down Flynn Road. The sun is where we are, and that's Interlink Electronics. In fact, we would get them on Alibaba, the parts. It'd take them weeks and months to arrive. We could have just went down the street, walk, drive 2 minutes and just pick them up. So we figured there's so many parts along Flynn Road, little batteries, microcontrollers. It'd be so cool if we can make the whole thing here, down that street, along Flynn Road. And we came up with the perfect name, Flynn's, the soul of Camarillo. It's perfect. It has to be done. It's so awesome. Thank you. I can't wait to see what you guys say.
So, Zach, maybe you could clarify to the panel one of the questions we were asking ourselves when we were talking about your first round. What's not clear is what exactly are the boundaries of your product, or what is the range? Is it only the hardware that we see here, or is it software, or is there data also that you're contemplating marketing and selling?
The goal of this is there's a lot of pressure sensor companies that have they sell in the thousands. So if we use really high quality parts, nobody would buy them. And we figured, why not instead go for really, really cheap hardware, and what makes it valuable is the software. And by making the parts really cheap, our target price hopefully would be $100. And by having all these people wear them and contribute their data, it will be this ecosystem of data and machine learning-based APIs and applications. It will be that software ecosystem that's really valuable. And so the profit won't come from the hardware. It will come from the data itself. Because data, as everyone says, data is the new oil, and we are literally standing on a gold mine.
So you will own the data?
In a sense, yeah. Well, when I say in a sense, it's because on one hand, we could own the data in the same way Facebook owns the data that's generated, but it's important that we have a system where that we hold the ecosystem, but we also provide a way for people to monetize the data they generate, but we get a fraction of whatever transaction is made. For instance, you wear them, you generate all this data, and as people use the data, we would get a small fraction of it in order for us to sustain, the cost of the parts and sustaining the ecosystem. And the specifics on how much money we make from the ecosystem, that part depends on how ethical we want to be. But if we're greedy enough, we can make a lot of money from this. But I mean, you've seen these clothes, so I'm sorry, but we won't be billionaires. So the money won't be going towards the city of Camarillo of, taxes and stuff.
I have a question for you. Compared to the most common wearable now is the wrist, right? The watch or the Fitbit band, and proposing to do it with the feet is a lovely idea.
Thank you.
It comes with a problem. Because the problem is they have so many different shoe sizes. Whereas on the wrist, you need maybe a few holes. You can adjust to a lot of people. So from a hardware perspective, you're going to get into hardware. The inventory is a huge problem. How many different sizes are you going to make?
That's a very good question. We've been thinking about the different form factors. People have said, we even thought, should it be a sock? Because socks are more versatile. But then we thought, well, people got to wash their socks every time. Should it be a sock? Should it be or should we have a really good, JIT, just-in-time system where we can easily make every single type of size? Or maybe should we even license it so it can be integrated in existing shoe soles, so any shoe manufacturer can have it built into the base of the shoe, so people don't have to worry about putting the shoe sole in. Like with Dr. Scholl's, I I love Dr. Scholl's, but having to get the shoe sole in there can always be a pain. And that'll be one important part when we get to the stage of manufacturing. And at the moment, if we want to work with this PCB design, then I guess that'll be an issue when it comes to specifically how the mass manufacturing is done, and having a way to quickly generate every single type of shoe size and creating the right pressure distribution alignment. And when we get to the stage of miniaturization and we test out the data collection and machine learning methods, we may learn at that stage we need to change the sensor distribution. This distribution is very arbitrary. We had to pay per sensor. It may turn out that when we test around with the machine learning models, that we may need more sensors or fewer sensors or a better arrangement. And then we can use that information in the manufacturing where we can figure out which sizes to use and for every size, what distribution of sensors would be needed. And that's a very good question. And that would be a question that once we get to the miniaturization, we can go into the R&D exploration of the sensor distribution and the size issue. So, we haven't answered that yet, but we have anticipated that. And when we get to that stage, that is definitely something that will be stressing us out, but in the best kind of stress possible. So thank you for that question. It's a very good question.
I have a different set of questions. So you talk about data being the new oil and your
I
monetization.
apologize for that analogy. It's very overused.
Well, it helps. It clarifies. It brings clarity of where your focus is. But can you elaborate on your intent with the data? Are you going to just be a passer through of data, or are you going to put analytics applied to the data before you pass it through?
Honestly, the best method is to have a great infrastructure where people can generate the data, but the analytics can go to third parties where, if there are, just like how there are app developers, there are people who have unique data generation lifestyles, people who go skiing, people who run, people who do strength training. And for those people to say, I want to share my data, and they would go through the effort of annotating their data, they can then generate it, they keep it, they get to have other people use their data for their machine learning models, and there will be third parties who are machine learning enthusiasts who can then take this data and either pay to remove it from the ecosystem, or they can generate, or they can use it for machine learning as long as their models are kept in the ecosystem. So then, by leaving the data generation and the analytics to third parties, they can do whatever they want with it, and just paying a minimal fee just for participating in the ecosystem. But again, having the option of taking the data and removing it for a much higher licensing fee, and of course, the money would go towards the people who contribute that data. Those are the two options. But for us to have as minimal influence as possible, it's very easy to kind of crowdsource the infrastructure in the same way that we partner with all these people, but they're not our employees. But from the way it sounds, it's almost as if they are. So it's like a hybrid type of thing.
How do you ward off competition with another Fitbit or another company, Nike licenses like this and start putting it out there?
Well, for competitors that work with risks, we plan to kind of piggyback off their analytics for the first part by like correlating our sensor data with their risk data. But when they do work with the shoe sole data, the reason why to do it as early and fast as possible with really cheap hardware is because it'll be that ecosystem of data and APIs and applications that becomes valuable. So even when they finally get around to releasing a product, some of them do, but their products, they're very closed, where you have to use their official app and you can't make applications for it, and you can't really do whatever you want with it. You kind of have to go through their system where you can't really extract the data. So they're very limited because they want to keep all the data generated and all that. But even if there is a company that does what we do and release an open product where people can access the data and do whatever, because of this giant ecosystem, that becomes what's valuable. So even if they release hardware that is much higher quality, has even 100 more sensors, and and we even provide a system where they can actually enter their shoes into our environment, where if they're able to make the same APIs work on their system, then they can just piggyback on our platform and all the applications can run on theirs. So people can even participate in the ecosystem, and maybe even later on, a better shoe sole manufacturer can be what people use, and they'll use the applications that our system has provided. So we intend to collaborate with everyone. And again, it's kind of like that social network, but of just that method of where the data is and where the data is and how the data is being used. And we're very open to collaboration. All these people we collaborated with, and with Embry Tech and any competitors tell us we have a better product, we'll say, that's great, let's talk. I mean, we're willing, if they have a product that's 10 times better than this, we'll throw this in the trash and join them. I mean, I just want this. I want this for myself. I don't care how it's made. Whether it's made by Stephen Label or Interlink, me or him or you. Any more questions?